Good evening. India are in a spot of bother, aren't they? In Chennai, 257 for six at stumps with Washington Sundar and R. Ashwin, the overnight batsman, after England piled up a massive 570 over. It's been a tricky day for the Indian batsmen, but whether was it tricky, was it the pitch, was it the way Bess and Jofra Archer went about the business, or was it just poor shot selection? We will talk a lot about that with Pragyan Oja and Deep Das Gupta, but before we get there, here's a quick look at our sponsored video.
क्या आप भी किसी अपने सपने मेरे तुम्हारे टीम 11 पे टीम बना रहे हो और बच्चों के साथ खेल रहे हो? हमारे साथ खेलोगे? हाउस पे खेलो लेजेंड्स के साथ, हमें हरा और जीतो डबल कैश. Log on to houseit.com and win real cash.
Right. By now, I need not to remind you much about it, but please download the Houseit app and start making your teams and challenging our experts on sports today. Remember, there's a lot of cricket coming up. Some exciting cricket around the subcontinent. In fact, Pragyan, before we just get to the India Test match, West Indies pulled off this sensational victory, didn't they? Kylie Myers on debut, 210 not out, chasing down 395. Great times for teams visiting other countries. India in Australia, England and Sri Lanka. West Indies stunning Bangladesh on Chattogram on a tricky day 5 pitch. And now England, Pragyan, clearly have the upper hand. I know before we get to the condition, and obviously you and Deep have told us, that conditions will change, that the pitch will become more receptive to spinners over the next couple of days. But first up, short selection: Virat Kohli, Cheteshwar Pujara, Ajinkya Rahane, even Shubman Gill with that ball from Jofra Archer. He wouldn't have expected a wicket there for sure.
Yeah, that was right from the middle of the bat. When we talk about Shubman Gill and the way he was batting, he looked superb. He looked as if he belonged there. It was just matter of time. The way he was getting those runs, you could see the difference between him and other players. That's the reason he's been rated so high. But unfortunately, he's a player who goes with the flow, and he was just going with the flow. And a brilliant take by a 38-year-old guy, the way he took that catch. Saying that Ajinkya Rahane, Pujara was unlucky. That was like you cannot explain such dismissals. Like he was trying to pull the ball, it was short, hits the short leg fielder's shoulders, and then straight goes to the mid wicket. So you can't do much about it. And Virat, yes, he needs to get his form back. That is something Indian team will be really looking forward to. Virat comes back into that form and gets those gritty runs that we know Virat can do. And Ajinkya Rahane, that was a poor shot, full toss. At times, there are certain shots you cannot explain, and this is one of them. Full toss straight into the fielder's hand. It was a brilliant take, but no excuses. I think
Right.
little more responsibility from Ajinkya.
Right. No, before I get to Rishabh Pant, there was a reason I did not mention Rishabh Pant's short selection, because that is how he plays. That he lives and dies by the sword.
So that's the very reason why he was chosen ahead of Riddhiman Shah. They wanted him to play certain kind of cricket. They wanted him to always go after the bowler. If you look at Ben Stokes and Rishabh Pant, they played quite similar kind of cricket. They were not letting the left-hand spinner settle down. They knew the wicket. There was some help for the left-hand spinners to the left-handers. So that's the reason they were just going after them. They're not letting them settle down. And he was quite successful. Yes, he got out at the wrong time, but maybe because of him, we got some quick runs. And that's how he has been playing, and that's what the team wanted him to do. He's done exactly what was asked to do.
Ironically caught by the same man he had unsettled right through his innings.
Yes,
It was
true.
But before we get to Bess, who was spectacular, Jofra Archer bowled with a lot of heart to get that kind of bounce and pace on this surface. What is it that the Indian batsman did wrong after that start? Because it looked like such a frenetic stage at that game at one stage. Shubman Gill got off to that quick 29. Virat Kohli came. Cheteshwar Pujara does what he was doing, uses his feet against the spinners quite a bit to try and unsettle them, especially in the subcontinent. But we've heard a lot of talk of intent from this team. Did you think the intent was missing, or was did it look like they were in two minds, did not quite know what to do, because England were hurrying up with their pace, and they started off with Anderson and Archer. Stokes came on, Archer was on fire, and then the spinners when Dom Bess and Jack Leach got into the act. Was it like? Did it look like the Indian batsmen were in two minds, getting aggressive and asserted authority?
When you talk about intent, the intent was there. They were positive, they wanted to do well, everything was there. But remember what I told you on the first day: the wicket is going to deteriorate, and once every wicket that falls will have a lot of pressure on the batsman that comes in. Look at that score. I told you that will definitely play in your mind. That's the reason I had said you should not be thinking about that score, but that's how human mind is. uh, there are certain things you cannot just keep away from yourself. So every time a wicket falls, it's the pressure, because the wicket is deteriorating and there is a mammoth score up there which you need to be very close or maybe surpass it. So that pressure will always be there. We played good cricket. I won't say bad cricket. Few dismissals were something that these guys could have avoided. Virat, it was initially any batsman in the world can get out. Any batsman can get out to that delivery. He was not settled. But saying that, India would want him to get back to form and get those runs that we know Virat, that old Virat, which normally gets those runs. And Pujara was there. He was there. He was almost like 70. He was nearing his century. But that was an unlucky dismissal. I think Ajinkya Rahane also has to deliver now. It's very important. In subcontinent, if you lose the toss, these are the batsmen you want them to perform. Pant is a plus point for you. Yes, he can get you those quick runs, but I believe the core batting group is it will be the middle order. I'm talking about Ajinkya Rahane, Cheteshwar Pujara, and Virat Kohli. Once they start firing, it will be a different team.
Right, right. But did the pitch deteriorate as much as you would expect on an India surface? Pragyan, you said all along that the pitch will do a lot more and there will be turn. Today we did see there was a turn and bounce. But did it? Is this a typical, again? Is you also pointed out several
It's not a
times,
typical Chennai wicket, that is for sure. But it has started helping the bowlers more. Now slowly we'll see when the faster bowlers were bowling. If you see, there was little bit of those mud coming out right in the center. So these are something which the bowlers will be taking a note of, and the teams will be deciding what they need to do. And it is very important how we bat in this innings. This innings is very important for us. We have to not only bat to get closer to the target, but also we have to bat for that time. We have to play the time. If we don't do that, then England will have an upper hand, and in the fourth innings, anything can happen with the pressure of saving the test match. And once you start if you lose early 1-2 wickets, then that pressure mounts on you. And as a player, it is very difficult when the wicket has already deteriorated so much.
and they have been under pressure. They have had their backs against the wall. India in Sydney and in Brisbane, they came off with a fighting draw, and that historic victory in Brisbane came out of nowhere. But there's a lot of cricket still to be played. But before we get to what the challenges for India are, when England would be, if they get to that position, whether they would want to enforce the follow-on given the conditions of the heat and humidity in Chennai, Dom Bess, Pragyan, you would have been, as a spinner, as a fellow spinner, you would have been very impressed with the way he bowled. Yes, Jack Leach was put under pressure by Rishabh Pant, but Dom Bess, what did he do so differently from the India spinners, apart from the conditions, the seam position that you had talked of so nicely the other day? You must have been very, very happy as a fellow spinner to see someone coming in to very different conditions.
Apart from his skills, apart from his seam position and all, one thing I really liked was he was disciplined. He was bowling to a plan. He was bowling to a line. Even if he got hit, he was not changing his line and length. That is what was more important. I have repeatedly said, for a bowler, yes, at times you can get wickets, you may not get wickets. But when you're playing at that level, it is very important for you to bowl those discipline lines. Once you start bowling those discipline lines, one session you bowl tight, it looks as if the other team which is batting had a brilliant session. And then the second session you come in and you pick two early wickets because you have put that pressure on the batting side, then suddenly your team looks good. That's how the momentum changes. And to make it happen, what you have to do, you have to bowl those discipline lines, and that's what this guy has done.
Right, absolutely, I agree. But I just, when you were talking about Dom Bess's discipline and the skill set that he brought on the park, in the past, if memory serves me well, Navjot Singh Sindhu took on the Australian off spinner Gavin Robertson in 1998. He was expected to play the foil to Shane Warne. In the past, Indian batsmen have taken on opposition visiting off spinners. Despite the position they were in, yes, they lost two early wickets. They were faced with a massive first innings total. But do you think that's also where we maybe went wrong and did not try something different? Because at one point they were a little. Would you think they were a little too defensive against Dom Bess? Yes, he bowled those tight lines and lengths, but could they have tried something more different?
I'll tell you, when Virat came in and he was facing Dom Bess, he got out. By the time he was trying to get his eye in, he got out. And then Ajinkya got out to that full toss. And if you are expecting Pujara to play that kind of shot, going after the off spinner, that is not what that is not Pujara. That is not his strength. He tries to go after the off spinner, especially get those singles and doubles. That's how he plays. Yes, it would have been a different scene if Shubman Gill and Rohit Sharma would have batted against the offie. We have seen the way they go after these bowlers, like especially the off spinners. And when these guys bat, they just look to get those runs. And we've seen it when these two guys were batting. There are few batsmen, they play in a particular way, and there are other batsmen, they have their particular way. So we have to understand that. We have to see who was batting against the off spinner when he was trying to bowl. Had it been a set Virat Kohli or set Ajinkya Rahane or set Rohit Sharma, it would have been a different situation for Dom Bess.
Right, and like Vikram Rathore said at one point, right after Virat said, there was no intent from the Indian batsman, 36 all out. He said the batsman didn't last long enough to show any intent. There was no, you have to be in the middle to show intent and what you can bring to the park. But it's not really an alarming situation yet, because India have come back from behind to do well in the last two Test matches, especially overseas. You back them again to bat better in the second innings. But Pragyan, kudos to England, Joe Root and the England management for the way they tried different things on a pitch like this. When Ben Stokes got into the attack early on in the morning, coming around the wicket to right-handed batsmen.
When you talk about Ben Stokes, you look at their planning, how they planned it. If you are a cricketer and you know how to go about your business, you will see two things Ben Stokes was doing. One, he was trying to unsettle the batsman with that body line, trying to come round the wicket and bowl that line. And the other thing, what he was doing is he was helping his fellow spinner, Dom Bess, so that he has that foot marks there. Because if you see, the foot marks were there for the left arm spinner. For the off spinner, there was not much, because none of the team had the left arm seamer. So this guy was coming round the wicket and bowling, and he was finishing his follow through. When he was finishing his follow through, those patches were getting deteriorated because of the spike marks. So he was doing two things at a time. And that was a brilliant planning. They were well within the law of the game, and they planned it brilliantly.
Absolutely, and that showed the clarity of plans, and it also reminded you of the Indian planning and the execution against Marnus Labuschagne and Steve Smith in Australia, where they sort of stifled them up. We'll be very soon joined by Deep Dasgupta, who is on commentary duty for the Test match. But Pragyan, it's also time to look ahead, right? Because Indian teams have generally, like I just said, they've done well with their backs against the wall. Whether it's 2001 in that series, trading 0-1 against a champion Australian side, several other series overseas, and now here. It's a matter of pride because you have the regular captain coming back and you're under the pump at home. If Firstly, what I would want to understand from you from a bowler's perspective, bowling in the heat and the humidity, how enthusiastic would Joe Root be to get India to follow on if they get to that position? Because of that, and also the fact, would they want to bowl bat on a day 5 pitch at Chipok here?
First of all, about the follow-on, it is the captain. Normally, when I was a regular member in the Indian team, normally the captain would come to us and ask how exactly we are. Like, we are good to bowl another 20-25 overs, or if you need little bit of break where we can get that quick runs and then put the other batsman or other team in. So it totally depends on the bowlers, how fresh they are. And mind you, this is the first test. And then in 3 days' time, we've got another test match in the very same venue. And Chennai can be very hot and humid as well. So it depends on the bowlers. I'm very sure Joe Root and the think tank will talk to the bowlers and then they will plan. But the most important thing for them will be get this wicket as early as possible. And when you talk about the Indian side, tomorrow is a very important day. We have to bat long and deep to cut down that situation where we are trying to save the test match on a 5th day.
All right. In fact, Pragyan, even as you opined on that, there were several viewer questions on whether Virat Kohli was a little more defensive. I think Pragyan has already answered that with the fact that, by the time he tried to settle down and he could have taken on the spinners, he had already got out, and India were under a bit of pressure, having lost those 2 early wickets. But it's a little India memes was asking where did we exactly go wrong, and you've answered that, Pragyan. But do you want to take that again and elaborate on the batting failure on the top half today?
As I said, we had a good start. Apart from Virat and Ajinkya, we had a good start. Pujara was unlucky, but we expected more from Ajinkya Rahane and Virat Kohli and someone like Rohit Sharma, because these are the guys, if they bat, they will take the game away from the opponent. So these things didn't work for us. So I think that is one thing what I believe, if those guys, the core team starts batting well and get the majority of the runs, will be in a different situation.
Bhaskar Mankandan is also asking Pragyan another one, not immediately related to it, but he's asking, is Rohit Sharma suited for Test cricket, and if India should look at better options?
I think the opportunity that he's getting, it is very important for him to get those runs. He's a legend in white ball cricket. Everything is on him now to perform in the red ball cricket and just silence this debate forever. It's everything in his hand. He's got that temperament. He's got that talent to do well. That's the reason he's opening for India, and he's done that with the white ball for so long. Now it's up to him how he delivers.
Absolutely. In fact, there was a lot of expectation around him in Sydney, around Brisbane, and that fine innings that he played in Sydney, right? But he's too classy a player, Pragyan, to keep missing out. I'm sure there will be, like you also keep saying that.
That's the very reason he's there. That's the very reason why everybody wants him to open. He's proven. So it's up to him. It's just matter of one good innings and things will look totally different.
Absolutely. Now, since we are also talking about Rohit Sharma, that Jofra Archer delivery slightly back of a length, and then obviously Shubman Gill, that Archer would consider himself lucky to have got that wicket. But for some fire, he's almost setting a template on how to bowl in these conditions, right? What did he do so differently from all the other pacers that you've seen in Chennai in this test match? Take us to that spell of his absolute class.
Think he was doing exactly what his strength is. His strength is come and bowl those quick deliveries and those quick bouncers. He knows he's got pace. So he was using his pace very selectively. If you see when he came into bowl, he was touching 140, 145. Then every session he was bowling around that. But last session, if you see, he was bowling 125, 130. So he knew exactly what he needs to do. He knew that this is the time when I have to just keep things tight. So he's a very clever bowler, and what makes him so different is the pace that he generates. And it looks as if whenever he bowls, he it looks like he just bowls flawlessly. There is no effort into his ball. That's his strength, I believe, and he's using it to the maximum.
Then were you surprised that England did not go back to Jofra in the closing stages of the match? With the
I
closing
think
stages
I
of the
think I think last 20 minutes he should have bowled at least 2 or 3 overs before the end of day's play. That's what I felt. That was quite clear because when you have someone like him, try and get him. The best example is Bumrah picking up that wicket right at the end of day's play. Uh, so that is something you need to think about. Captain and the bowler, it has to sync because you have to look at who's your best wicket-taking option because your spinners are tired. They have bowled enough. So you could have got Jofra a little earlier.
Right, and since England anyway have a very well formulated rotation policy, right? So when they're in the middle, they'd expect a lot of the bulk of work to be carried on. But since we are all the England pacers, Pragyan, I'll take another question before we move on to the next segment. It's Abhishek Raj is asking, will Broad be more lethal in place of Anderson? Because Anderson, after that spell in Sri Lanka, today he was not, he did not quite deliver the goods, did not bowl a lot of overs. But do you think in these conditions, Broad could have a more reasonable chance of success?
It's very tough to say because when you're talking about Anderson, his form and the legacy that he's carried, he's got 600 plus test wickets. That is the most by a fast bowler, and he's coming from Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is even hotter than India right now, and he's got a 6-4 there. So when you see all this, you should not be doubting him. Yes, a lot of Stuart Broad can come in and pick those wickets. If he would have been playing, he would have got 1 or 2 wickets. Who knows? But when you're looking at Anderson, he's done everything right to be there to play. Maybe tomorrow he gets 2 wickets and then things change.
Right. Right. We've discussed the Indian batting failure. We've discussed the England spinners and the pacers, but also Pragyan, what next for India? Because Washington Sundar, R. Ashwin, no marks with the bat. They've proven themselves. Do they bat out time? Do they look to up the ante, score some runs, show some intent? What is intent now, and how is their approach going to be like?
It's you bat normal, but you have to think about that this is the last recognized pair that can bat long. So that is something they need to balance it out. They should get those runs. I'm not saying they should be over defensive. Then it becomes a different story altogether. You just have to go bat, get those runs, but at the same time be little careful about what the situation is because a lot of things is depending on these two guys right now, or how these two guys bat. That will determine what is going to happen on the 5th day. So
Right.
that is something they need to balance out.
Right. No, from the English perspective, also, Pragyan, you mentioned the captain in your time, he would come to the bowlers, and probably that is what Joe Root and management would also want to do with the English team. But now, from the Indian perspective, right, there are, like you said, they have to be careful because they're the last recognized batting pair, then it's right into the tail enders. What would be ideal for India? Let's say by tea time tomorrow, right? What is ideal for Team India? Obviously, ideal would be to see these guys bat out as long as possible. But realistically, where would they be looking at themselves to assume some role, some position of safety in this test match?
I think they just have to play those sessions, not look to chase those runs. Once you look to chase those runs, then you're putting extra pressure on yourself. You already have so many things to address, so you need not think about those things. Sundar and Ashwin, they should plan for every session, like maybe say 30 runs, 40 runs, whatever it is. They just plan and play those sessions, and then they see how to go about it. By when they reach their goal, and once that is accomplished, then they should think about the next. They should not be thinking about the bigger goal and then putting pressure on themselves, because as I said, they are the last recognized batters we have. After that, we have got bowlers. So they have to just plan it out and think about those smaller goals.
Tricky couple of days ahead for India. More is the onus is on them now too, because England are clearly in the driver's seat. Clearly in the driver's seat. Nobody would have expected that, because India have been so dominant at home for the last decade. Ironically, it was England who defeated India in a series at home the last time. But there is plenty of cricket still to be played. In the closing stages of the game, Pragya, some questions, some viewer questions, a lot of reactions, as you'd expect on a day when India's star batsmen haven't done well. There is,
And I feel it is justified. The fans, the viewers are the major stakeholders. They have every right to question.
right. So Chaitanya Kulkarni is asking, I think, asking. I think we this small technical snag with Pragyan. We'll get it back shortly, but we'll get Chaitanya's question to Pragyan. He's asking whether Pujara, please applaud him. He's the man again and again. Very true. Will we get Pragyan back on? Pujara has been relentless, hasn't he? In Australia, he took those body blows. Yes, his strike rate has sometimes been questioned. In fact, in the first innings of this test match, there were possibly where he could have taken the initiative a little longer, but he's been a champion, hasn't he? And the fact that he's so resilient, the fact that he is so strong and takes those blows on his body, and he said that on an interview on Sports Today. He talked about his batting technique. He'd spoken about how he absorbed the pressure by taking those blows, and Pragyan is back. So Chaitanya was asking Pragyan, Pujara should be applauded. He's been the man again and again. He's been criticized sometimes for his strike rate, but he's just such a champion player, and he did that again today, and before that unfortunate dismissal. I think we've lost Pragyan again. But yes, to also take this other question about Ajinkya Rahane's inconsistency, yes, that's something he'll be worried about. And Pragyan already spoke about that, saying that he needs to really get going. He played that captain's knock in Melbourne. That 100, I thought, was one of the most special innings I'd seen by an Indian batsman overseas in recent times. It was in that partnership with Ravindra Jadeja. He was brilliant as captain, coming back to India. And look, sometimes it's difficult to come back from a high attritional tour like Australia, come back to different conditions in India, and to adjust. And remember, these players did not have a big turnaround time. And with the bio bubble and all of that, they got only 3 days to train in Chennai. Pragyan, there was a question on Ajinkya Rahane from one of our viewers asking, his inconsistency is a little glaring. What do you have to say about that? This question is from Jay Gopal Senapati. You already touched upon it, but since we've taken the Ajinkya Rahane question, would you like to take it again?
I think yes. If you follow Ajinkya Rahane's career, he's. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. We can hear you.
Yeah. What I was saying is, if you look at his career and his graph, so he gets those big hundreds. He gets those gritty knocks. He plays for you. Suddenly, there comes a patch where he doesn't perform. It looks as if he's out of form. So that is something you will see in Ajinkya Rahane. So that is something he needs to address. That is something which I felt as a fellow cricketer. I have seen what has affected him because he's not been that consistent. But a batsman of his stature, it really surprises me. Suddenly he gets 100, and then one or two games he gets out as if he's out of form, but it's not the case. So that is something he needs to address.
Absolutely. Yes, Rajput asked about England's tactics on the follow-on, but Pragyan has already answered that, and that would depend on the bowlers and the discussion between the captains and where and how many runs adrift India are. But Pragyan, before we close the show, it's been that kind of a day, right? Two young batsmen, Shubman Gill at the top, Rishabh Pant down the order, exuberance, aggression. Okay, you can question the shot selection, but then that's what Rishabh Pant is all about. Shubman Gill, I just wanted to touch upon a little about Shubman Gill. The fact that these two very young batsmen, they would be around for years. They've set the right tone for Indian cricket. They've set the right platform from where they can really take off at this juncture of their careers. You must have been pretty proud to see the way Shubman has carried himself from his Test debut.
Right from the yeah, exactly. Right from the start, he's been brilliant. He never looked as if he was trying to adjust or something. He it was like he was already there. He knew what he had to do, and he was never holding himself back. If he wanted to play a certain kind of shot, he was just playing those shots. And someone who knows Shubman Gill very closely, he said something to me. It was very rare to see Shubman Gill leave that bouncer of Jofra Archer. So it says two things. One, Shubman Gill is getting matured, and the other one is Jofra was bowling really well at that point.
Right, and since it's Shubman Gill, Indian memes for us asking and wondering when will there be a bat sticker for Shubman Gill? Hopefully soon, right?
It should be not long, not long.
Yeah.
He'll get it sooner.
Right, but these are characters, Pragyan, Rishabh Pant's commentary. Like we discussed, like Rishabh, we should probably
While batting also he was commenting. He was talking to Pujara. He was giving a piece of his mind to Pujara.
we would like to know more about what it is because we've heard a lot of Indian batsmen. Rahul Dravid once said that Virendra Sehwag, if he got out early, he'd come back to the dressing room and he'd be like, "Arey, ye chauka jana chahiye, chakka jana chahiye tha," and the batsman waiting after it, they'd be like, "Whoa." It's sometimes easier said than done.
He's always been like that. He's always been like that. Every time, very rarely he used to get out so early. Even if he gets out, he'll come into the dressing room, he'll change, and then he'll sit with others, and then he'll start talking about the batsman who's in, like maybe say Lakshman Bhai is batting, so his batting style is different. So he'll be like, no, he should have got boundary there. He should have stepped out and hit it over the bowler's head. That's how he does. So I think this team also will have some similar kind of characters who always have a different view or perspective about a particular bowler or a situation.
Right, and it's entertaining to see. And I think maybe we should start a special segment on Rishabh Pant on all our post-match analysis because he's either commentating or annoying Ashwin with missed stumping chances that reaction from Ashwin was telling, or he's going to get you those quick, entertaining runs. A lot of questions from our viewers on whether India have struggled against Australians, why they're struggling. Pragyan has answered all of that. Also on the follow-on tactics, again, Pragyan has, he's left. He reckons it'll be up to Joe Root and the bowlers and the discussion they have, and how many runs behind India and what stage of that match. Because
why I said that, I'll tell you, Rajesh.
Yeah.
It is very important to see what the bowler's body is, if they're ready or not. Suddenly you go give the follow on, especially in these kind of conditions. You have to talk to your bowlers. Suddenly you give the follow on and your bowlers are not ready. They're not able to give their 100% because they're tired, or maybe because of heat they have not recovered. Then what do you do? So you need to discuss with your bowlers if they are good enough to go in and bowl another 20-25 overs and have those longer spells and bowl those quality deliveries, not just come and bowl for the heck of bowling.
Yes, absolutely. And but whatever it was, it's been an entertaining passage of play here in Chennai because a lot of people were wondering whether it's going to be a boring draw, whether it's going to be boring, a high-scoring game, but it's not. It's anything but boring now. The Test match is wide open. England are clearly, they have their noses ahead, but plenty of opportunities for India to bounce back like they have over the last couple of months in Australia. Why can't they do it at home with their gun batting unit back together? But whatever happens on Monday, we could expect a very spicy penultimate day of this test match. We'll be joined again by Pragyan Oja and Deep Das Gupta to talk and dissect about everything that is unfolding at Chipper. It's an entertaining test match, but do join us back on Sports Today. Thank you so much.